You're the player welfare manager at Wigan Warriors, but I think it's fair to say you've entered into the sport in an unorthodox fashion. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so when I was younger, played a bit of amateur rugby league, and then that fell away. Went into amateur boxing, did a little bit in there, and then wanted to go into S&C, so went to university. And then while I was there, I met Paul Johnson, who played here, Bradford, a few other places. And I was lucky enough, Paul was here at the time. So I came and did an internship as an S&C coach while I was studying. Lucky enough to then get a job at the club. And then sort of fast forward, that was sort of 2012, fast forward to 2017. Steve McCormack was player welfare manager here, and he was leaving. So Chris Radlinski spoke to me about taking it on. And to be honest, at first I wasn't keen. I saw a lot of the negative side of player welfare, and only really knew about dealing with players in crisis. That's what I saw a couple of times, and that put me off. But then the more I spoke to Steve about it, I found out more about it. It interested me. I actually thought it could be really rewarding, and then from there ended up in the position I am now, doing the welfare, and love it. So not what I expected when I first walked into it, but very rewarding.
Rewinding a little bit, you mentioned you're an amateur boxer. Does your background in that particular discipline, does that help you working in professional sports, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. That, and then spending a lot of time with the players in the gym and being able to relate to them and what they're doing every day, not to the same level at any degree. But yeah, it certainly, I think it helps, and then they respect it a little bit as well. So it just helps with that relationship building.
You use the term relationship building. How important is that to a welfare manager?
I think that's the main thing. If you've not got that, you can't do anything else. And that was when Chris spoke to me, that was the reason he'd asked me to take the job on rather than try and find somewhere from outside. I'd been at the club probably 6 years at that point. Worked in the academy for a large part of it, so a lot of the first team squad I knew them since they were 14, or even earlier, some of them. So I already had a real deep relationship of trust with them, and that formed the reason why I took the job. So 100% I would agree that relationships with players is the most and first thing that you need, and then after that you can build all your other facets on top of it.
And relationships can't be forced. They can't be manufactured on a false foundation. You've got to spend time getting to know people, genuinely getting to know people.
100%. I think players sometimes get an unfair stereotype that they're not smart or they're not switched on, and they are, especially emotional intelligence. If they sniff that you're not being true to yourself, doesn't sound right, but if you're not being real with them, they'll find out pretty quick, and you'll lose them fast. And then I don't think luckily I've not been in this position, but I can't imagine getting them back is easy at all. I think you might as well just leave at that point.
Yeah, would be a relationship killer, definitely. Yeah, and it takes a lot of hard work to get back. For those people who don't know, what does a welfare manager do?
Supports players, encourages them, builds relationships with them, tries to make them think about who they are beyond a rugby player, what they might want to do alongside rugby and after rugby. And I would say try and make them a better person. Not in a forced manner, but where do they want to go, and then try and help them get there. And I think, as well as the player welfare managers in clubs now, there's a good support network in RL Cares helping them do that. In my time as a welfare manager, I've seen that go from maybe 2 staff to, I think it might be 20 or more staff now. So there's a bigger network for them, but I think it's just trying to help them develop who they are away from the field, so that they're best prepared for when the time comes that they no longer play rugby.
Do all players buy into it at the same level? Are all players similarly engaged? No,
and that is what it is. You have to accept that, and again, similar to the relationships, you can't force it, and if you do, it has the opposite effect. And probably when I first started doing the job, I fell into that trap of maybe pushing too hard on some players, and it pushed them away. But spending more time in it now. If you make things optional and you get the right people on board, players just follow and come with them when they see what the benefits are.
A number of former players fill the role of welfare managers. Have you got any advice to current players who might be interested in doing this in the future? And what sort of personal qualities would make them a good welfare manager?
Yeah, I would tell them to speak to the welfare managers now who are ex-players. Speak to the ones who aren't, but speak to the ones who are ex-players and find out what they think the job is, what it entails. And as I said, I think there's some misconceptions probably around what a player welfare manager does and is. So find out exactly what that is, and you'll probably be quite surprised. And it's very rewarding. So I would encourage players to go into it, or at least have a look at it. I think players have really good qualities that they could take into it. Trust. It's a massive one. We've spoke about it already, but that trust teammates put into each other. They're very structured, most players I find. Very organised, which is important. They've got so many transferable skills that I think they almost underestimate. And I think working with their player welfare managers now, they could find out more of the skills that they do have without realising it. Like organisation, like preparation, like timekeeping, that they take for granted that the general public probably don't. And I don't think they realised how well advanced they are as employees if an employer was looking at them.
Good stuff. Looking back a little bit, you've been here 12 years now,
Yeah.
Is that right? How has this club changed in 12 years?
I would say it's more... I think as a sport and a society, we've become more accepting of mental health and mental ill health. And I would say that's reflected at the club. Not that it was ever dismissed, but I think it's spoken about a lot more. It's a lot more open. I would say I'm in a fortunate position where I've got a head coach in Matt and a CEO in Rads, where they encourage welfare. They're asking me questions. They want to know what we can do next, what we can do better. They want regular monthly meetings. They want players involved, medical staff, the community department. So I think the club has gone from being in a good place and probably being more reactive when things went wrong and caring for people then, to trying to get into a proactive place where we're helping players and staff prepare for things before they happen. And then there'll always be reactive situations, and I think we're really good at that still. But I would say that's the biggest change I've seen, going from reactive to more proactive approach.
On the proactive front, and we encourage personal growth with all the athletes we work with. What's your personal growth what are your plans for the future? What's next for Tom?
Great question. I think I would like to look more. I did a counselling course recently, level 3, and that really interested me. And it had been maybe 4 or 5 years since I'd done a structured course of some kind of training, and it reminded me that doing things like that, it just gets you thinking again, gets you questioning things. So I would say more training, but I'm not sure in what yet, and not specifically just for a qualification, more to keep stimulating them thoughts and making sure you're up to date with things.
Good stuff. The counselling qualification, either as a welfare manager or as an independent person, has that changed you at all, having gone through the counselling qualification?
Yeah, definitely, I would say it has. And I would say for the better. Some of the things that we learned on that were applicable to me personally, and then definitely in what I do day to day. It's definitely improved what I do. Some of it seems almost common sense when you're going through it on the course, but I think it just being reinforced to you, and then there's little things that just remind you and inform you and definitely improve your practice day to day and personally. And then I think the course as a whole, because it was run in the manner it was a safe group of people within Rugby League who could share thoughts, feelings, frustrations, and it became almost a counselling group for each other. And I know I still keep in touch with people from the course now, and I know other people keep in touch with each other as well. And when you see each other, similar to when you've been a club and worked together, it definitely lasted beyond what the 6 or 9 months of the course was.
And if a player was considering being a welfare manager in the future, would you encourage them to do a counselling course while they're still playing?
Yeah, definitely. I did mine part-time, so I was working at the same time. It's not easy, but if it was easy, I don't think it would be worth much. But I do think players would have capacity if they wanted to do it, and I would definitely encourage it. I think it would improve them probably in their relationships with teammates and staff, and I think the confidence in asking questions in meetings or managing up, speaking to head coaches or CEOs or agents or whoever it might be. As strange as that may sound, I think it would help them in that, and probably with their own personal relationships as well.
Could they become better players as a result?
Absolutely, definitely. What I think is important to understand is it might not affect the left to right passing or the spiral bombs, but I think as a whole player, more off the field and away from the rugby type things and into personal relationships, it would improve that side.